It's just about to start live streaming.
Let me know when we're live, Nabil.
Yeah. Yeah, live.
Cool. Good morning and welcome everybody to our 8th Town Hall. It's really great to see so many people on the call as ever, being streamed all over the world. I'm actually in Toronto this morning after completing EdCon, which has been a fantastic conference, and I really recommend that everybody try and find the live stream and watch particularly some of the talks about sharding and scaling from Carl and Vitalik and Justin Drake, and some of the panels on that as well, because there was some really, really valuable and interesting information that was released over the course of this weekend. And it's just, it's been a real treat for the Status team to be here. I think myself, Nabil, Ben, RJ, Yuri, Eric, we've all really had a great time, and it's just reminded us exactly how great it is to be a part of this community, and you know, again, why it is that we get up each morning and do the work that we do to build the decentralized future. So let's dive straight into our slides. The first one is, as always, about our top open bounty contributors. So huge thanks to Pakamara, who's completed 5 bounties this week, and Daniel Rajecki and PSDP with 4. All 3 of those contributors have been around for a long time, so it's really great to see them continuing strong there. The update on this team is that some people will be shifting their work to focus now on desktop, and there's a kickoff call scheduled for that later this week. I'm sure there'll be more information sort of coming through about that, perhaps in our next few town halls. As always, we've had some really interesting contributors join our team. So Sebastian Delgado on the Go team, and Daniel Marford for finance and operations with Yasin, which is really exciting. And we also still have 17 open roles. So we are actively hiring, particularly in the design area. So if you know any designers or other people who might be well suited to working with Status, as always, there's that referral program. So make sure that you pass on their information and that we can continue to get the best people around the world involved with Status. This is a people update from Steph. So Steph, are you?
Actually, it's me, Yasin, presenting on this. So I'll provide you with the Status people update. Well, first of all, I'd like to emphasize that we very much care that every contributor to the Status project receives the best support in order to maximize the performance and this satisfaction while contributing. Therefore, the People Ops team at Status is available to you and will provide you with any help whenever you need it. Just reach out to any member of the People Ops team, or also through the People Ops channel in Slack, and you'll receive the support as soon as possible. Now, China and Steph have been working on collecting all the helpful information in one location and compiled it on an onboarding and people handbook site. It replaces actually all the previous Google Docs. The site is very helpful for reference, even if you've been contributing to Status since a while. So have a look. By the way, you can click the links here on this site to get to the respective locations. I recommend you read the founder statement by Jared, browse through the Status wiki, and have a look at the amazing blockchain guide that will provide you with a deeper understanding of decentralization. And it's all on this handbook site. A new section is called Keeping Healthy. It provides you with hints on how you can limit distractions while working remotely, and on how to set up an ergonomic workspace. We'd like to further improve the handbook, so any recommendation on how to enhance it is appreciated. You might have noticed that the app Poly was added to Slack, with which you can start your own polls. An experiment is ongoing to use Poly to request feedback on people's performance during trial periods and beyond. Also here, please let us know if you have any comments and feedback on how to improve as polls proceed. Now, Status has been added to Glassdoor, and job postings have been integrated with Twitter. You're very welcome to post your comments about Status on Glassdoor, especially positive ones are appreciated, of course. Currently, we have 17 job openings with Status. For that, I would like to promote our referral program, for which you will find the details on Status Wiki. So besides posting positive comments on Glassdoor, please recommend Status to your friends. We need all the support we can get to decentralize all the things and build the best interface between humans and the blockchain. So thank you very much. That was all for Status People today.
So then, as always, we're just going to go over some study fundamental highlights. So there's been a book recently written called Radical Markets that Vitalik did a really interesting review of. There's some fascinating ideas there, from Harbinger taxes to a bunch of other things that you might not have heard about before. And in fact, the PhD who wrote this book presented at EdCon as well, so it's well worth the time that it would take to read it. And then the other two links that I've included today have to do with the notion of token curated registries, or TCRs. They seem to be all the rage at the moment. So you can go and read. The guy who's worked most on them is a guy called Mike Golden from AdChain. He gave an update not too long ago, and that's listed there. And then obviously I've included something from Simon de la Riviere, who also sort of wrote about the conceptual understanding of why these token curated registries are interesting and important. And it has to do with the fact that we have been making lists forever and ever and ever. And there's a good historical precedent behind a lot of this stuff, as there always is. And it's worth sort of diving into some of the conceptual understanding behind the technical, just to get a sense of ideologically why it is we do what we do. So yeah, dive into that. I strongly recommend Simon's link as well, especially if you're sort of sitting up late at night somewhere in the world looking for something interesting to read. It's well worth going into. So we have a marketing update from Johnny. Is he on the call?
Nope, it's Kim this time.
Kim, cool.
Johnny's in LA. Thanks, Andy. So starting with status projects, overall, there's been a lot of activity on status project side with 2 major launches back to back. We've had a lot of really positive feedback and buzz around the launch of Embark since the announcement was made last week during EdCon. I know Yuri will be discussing Embark in much greater detail during Townhall today. And we're still seeing great response from the launch of Incubate last month, with a lot of interest in applications coming in. Remember, you can always learn more about status projects, including Embark and Incubate, on our website. And worth calling out some kudos to Johnny, who's not on the call today, for driving the marketing around these 2 huge initiatives. For our launch comms, things are coming together and a lot of things are currently in production. Our brand platform is the State of Us, which is the name that was that status was originally derived from the phrase the State of Us. So there's a nice brand story there that speaks sort of to the vision and definitely the ideology behind status. To support this, we have a State of Us podcast series kicking off this month, leading with guests Carl and Jared, interviewed by Andy. So more to come on that. We're moving into production now on a 60-second State of Us video. We'll be continuing our community competition series this month. We're launching a new onboarding email flow with fresh content. We have paid media pilot program in development, as well as a lot of social and blog content plans. So stay tuned for more on this. Status Open Bounty. We're continuing to refine the Status Open Bounty experience with a recently redesigned and much improved dashboard that the Open Bounty team created. Also, new onboarding and email flow in progress, as well as the new desktop focus Andy mentioned. Community and events, some really exciting events coming up over the next couple of weeks. We're a sponsor of the Swarm Orange Summit that's kicking off today and runs through May 11th. The Ethereal Summit runs on May 11th and 12th in New York. And we're really excited about at Buenos Aires, happening May 25th to 27th. Can you go to the next slide, Andy? Perfect. I thought it was worth taking a quick look at some of our social media metrics. Marketing has been working really closely with our community managers and a variety of contributors to sort of refocus on social media, and we're starting to see some great results. Major back-to-back Incubate and Embark launches certainly helped drive some of these numbers. So if we look at our month-over-month social metrics on Twitter, though acquisition of new followers was actually slightly down, our engagement metrics, which are in many ways much more significant, were all up by double or triple digits, including number of tweets, likes, clicks, and retweets. The largest notable increase was in month-over-month impressions, which was up 205% from 2.78 million to over 8 million, which is fantastic. So thank you everyone who has been active on Twitter. On Facebook, reactions, page and post engagements are all up. The largest notable increase on Facebook was the number of posts, up 350% from 10 to 45 month over month. So we're slowly making some progress there. Major blog posts since our last town hall included the Embark launch announcement and our Pillars of Decentralization series that kicked off last week and will continue to run for several months. So watch for frequency of our posts to increase, along with some new blog series and potentially even some guest bloggers. And lastly, we are currently reviewing how we use our Riot channel, exploring new ways to spark idea sharing and content contribution there.
All right, so regular weekly tech talks. We've seen some really good talks last few weeks from Andrea, from Igor, from Jared on wallet and mnemonics and key structure and how Status uses GoNode and so on. So we want to keep that up. And every week we'll have essentially a tech talk. It can also be a non-tech talk as well. There's a sign-up form here. And the topic can be anything from some kind of report summary to some user research to some tutorial for how to build a DApp, maybe something on smart contracts or anything you can think of. And ideally, these topics are also live streamed and published on our YouTube channel, so via Zoom or something like that. So if you're interested in this, don't hesitate to sign up, or if you want to talk more about it, bounce some ideas, feel free to reach out. Cool.
Hey, very quick OKR update. I thought I'd do a very quick recap for new people at Status as well as the community, what our OKRs are. OKRs are basically our North Star for our objectives and key results. And the whole company got together in Bangkok, and Core in particular did some like sticky voting, and we all voted on what is the most important things for Status to do in Q2. And there's a link up the top for the OKRs in detail, but I wanted to just have a quick recap of the top priorities that we all set. Our top priority, our P0 priority, is to make messaging reliable. And we set the key result to have send delivered ratio greater than 99%. Right now it's around 90%, so we've got some work to do on that. And we wanted higher reliability and confidence reflected through user surveys. And some user surveys will be going out in the next alpha release. Our next highest priority is to launch the beta. And for that, our key results would have 5,000 daily active users and high 7-day retention. And so that's basically it. Quick reminder, we have our top priorities. These were derived through voting and consensus democratically. And I hope we can hit those key results. Thank you.
Thanks, Chad. We now move into some of the swarm updates. So this will start off with core swarms, and the first being beta.
Cool. All right. So this is, I guess, more a general thing. So it connects to what Chad was just talking about in terms of OKRs. And what we want to get a beta out this quarter. And the plan is that we're going to have a release candidate out within the next few weeks, because there will be some lead time in terms of security audits and final bug squashing and submitting DApp and all these things. What we're going to do is we're going to sort of, like, one thing we've seen with the swarm model and so on is that we have a lot of great ideas and lots of sort of interesting products, people working in different directions on, but there's been a slight lack of focus on the critical path. So we're going to address that. And the absolute biggest thing that's missing now and is not good enough is chat reliability. And we need to put more attention to this and more focus. And there will be a call tomorrow for core to discuss this better, how we can achieve this and get release candidate out over the next few weeks. And also some sort of site changes in terms of how we make sure that we have enough people sort of working on these core priorities. So with that, we'll have the Swarm updates in sort of a kind of area format, starting off with infra and tooling swarms. Next slide. And yeah.
So core metrics has been progressing. In the last 2 weeks, we've improved the mixed panel IDs for better privacy. We've integrated Instabug surveys that are going out in the 09/18 release. And the first survey will be for message reliability. And we had a great third-party bounty contributor, Pakamara, and he's improving, or she is improving the opt-in screen, and that's in PR and it's about to be merged. In the future, we're hoping to fix up a couple of the mixed panel bugs, discuss data sharing and see how we can open this data to everyone. And we're adding a metrics opt-in reminder, and so we need to finalize the copy for that.
Thanks for that, Chad. Yeah, Pakamara is a man, but it's just indicative of open source development that we don't really care, right? It's about the code you submit, and he's done some really amazing work this week. So thanks again to him. Moving on, is Anton there?
Yes, hi all. So it's about extended automated testing, and the core objective is to reach 80% of functional test cases coverage with automated tests. And progress last 2 weeks. We've added tests for account management, DApp usage, transactions, chat management, and right now we have around 60% coverage. Also, we've added test trail reports per nightly build. And right now, not more than 10% of those tests are failing due to an issue with the test. And a really big, great thanks for Evgenia for adding visual validations for automated tests. Right now, we can compare user pictures, profile pictures, and etc. So we can increase our coverage, and we have, and that's it. So future goals is to reach 80% plus test coverage and to introduce new nightly build testing workflow. So we won't test it manually, and it will be done automatically by automated tests, and we just need to maintain them on daily basis. Also, we are going to add restart session logic in case of any infrastructure issue. So we will get less than 10% fails from issue due to an issue with test. And the lessons learned. So estimates were too optimistic. Goal date was 1st May, and it's already in the past, but the swarm is still active. Also, on the next screen, we can see an example of test trail report. We can see one test by the right side. We can see whole coverage. We can see that 46% passed and 10% undefined fail. And also we can see some tests listed. That's it. If you are interested, you can use LastPass, and it's for internal team members. You can access the test trail. So credentials, guest credentials are there.
So Adam, are you there?
Hey, yep, I'm here. Okay, so mainnet update. So today we have the final readout with Deja Vu, and they're supposed to present the final outcome of their audit. So far in the previous week, we have a call with them, and there was no major issues found so far. There are still these 2 issues that have been found a few weeks ago, so that's good. We also identified some security improvement for managing chat history, as some people don't want to store the chat history; they want to clean it up. So it's currently not possible. So that was what they found as well. So yeah, and yeah, the next thing with this swarm is to fix all security issues that were related to the audit, and basically they are labeled with security label in both status React and status Go repo. So yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Adam. So we move on to some of the mobile app swarms now, beginning with energy efficiency. I got Igor, are you there?
Yep. I'm here. And so the last 2 weeks, we set up the environment for using Android Profiler to find the CPU-related issues, and we also documented it. It's in the body of knowledge right now for the energy efficiency, because it requires some tweaking here and there. It's not possible to just run the profiler on the release application. Then we're working on one of the optimization is to deduplicate messages on the Go side. So we have an initial version already merged to our Go repository, and there is one update that needs to be done to it that is in progress right now. And while testing everything, we found out that there is a sort of a, not static, but dynamic performance degradation. The more messages you receive in a group, the more time it takes for us to process every message. So Jan is currently, we found one of the major sort of reason for that, and Jan is now working to fix that. So for the future, yeah, we want to actually finish the Go side message deduplication. Then this reason why the performance was degrading with time was the message grouping by days, as I understand. So we need to implement a more efficient algorithm for that. And then we'll continue researching what's in the hotspot later. So yeah, that's previously the background mode is still not a problem. So we are, if you want like some numbers, so we're comparing to like messengers on like Android, we are in 200% battery consumption in background and around 300 in foreground. So we still want to first fix the foreground to 200 and then start working on optimizing both of those. Yeah, that's for me.
Thanks, Igor. Yeah, that's some exciting stuff there. So 92 discovery, is Adam there?
Yep. Yep. So the main update is that we enabled Ringby, whatever, with Discover support in Nightly. So whenever right now you go download the Nightly and switch to Ringby, there's gonna be Discover version 5 enabled, which means all nodes are discovered through this protocol instead of being hard coded. We are doing like some more UI change to reflect that. So it was not really clear for many people that that's happening. So we decided to do this small UI tweak to update the copy. And yeah, except for that, we implemented some signals. They are not really supported in the status React, but they can be, and they bring some useful information about the Discover status, so how many peers you have, and so on and so forth. The future goals, so improving monitoring of Discover version 5, because we right now have some struggle with making sure that everything is fine when you connect to the cluster through this protocol, and also test it with other networks, because that's pretty easily possible, but we haven't really looked into other networks. So that's it. I haven't put it yet here, but the other thing is to also make support for LES. This is not working yet properly. So we are also wanted to play with this. So yeah, that's the kind of one of the final things with Discover version 5. So yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, and that lesson learned so far is also a very, very interesting one, which has made for some cool changes in terms of being able to manage stuff across Ringby, Ropsten, and mainnet. I'm a big fan. So moving on to the desktop app, 34 is Max on the call.
Hello, so React Native Qt Swarm update. We achieved successful production build of status React Desktop based on Qt framework. macOS bundle and Linux package of desktop app are available for internal test runs. JavaScript core integrated with React Native Desktop, tested on running with all status Electron sources. React Native Desktop built on Windows, status React Desktop built on Windows as well. I believe I will finish running of status React Desktop on Windows today, so we will have it running on Windows also pretty soon. And future goals, automate macOS bundle creation, as well as distribution creation for other target desktop systems, and investigate status desktop Windows build runtime issues.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a really, really great update. Thank you, Max. And huge kudos to Max, Vladimir, and Andre. This is some important work for us, and it's really, really great to see it moving ahead so fast. It's a great update. So moving on to chat, number 87 is Eric on the call.
Hi. Yes, I'm here. So for the new protocol, well, basically it's done since a few weeks already, but we kept the swarm open in order to work on bug fixes and group chats, but the group chats are now out of scope, and so basically now the swarm is about to close, and I think we reached the success metrics. Maybe not less than 10 megabytes a day, but still quite close, and way less than it used to be. So that's a good thing. And lessons learned so far. Yeah, we could have closed the swarm earlier because we started to do stuff that are more related to confidence swarm, and so that's actually why now we close it, and whatever is left, Andrea will do it in the context of 99 swarm. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, and in addition to battery consumption, the fact that we're sort of so far down on data is just incredible. It's one of the things which gets the greatest feedback when we're doing presentations at conferences like EdCon. To have moved from around 10 gigs a day to roughly 10 megabytes is just an incredible performance increase. And that tends to impress people a lot. So really, really well done to 87. It's a great swarm. 99.
That's just to add it, it's not only us, because it's also Go team who implemented the Bloom filters, and I think it also had a very good impact.
Absolutely. So 99 is Roman on the call.
Hi all. So do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so progress for last 2 weeks. We created and deployed the server for the next release. We implemented telemetry on nightly builds, but actually not on nightly, but on all development and nightly builds right now. And current stats are about 90% delivery rate, and we have the pull request, which will help us to distinguish nightlies from other builds, because right now, like local development can have some impact on these numbers, which can be a problem. Also, we have some ongoing work which is related to case when we receive push notifications, but we don't receive messages. And another thing which we are going to work during next weeks is that right now we have a problem with contact exchange when user recover his account. So Andrea proposed some way to fix this, and that's what we are going to work on. That's probably it for now.
Thanks, Roman. 86 push notifications, Pedro.
Yeah. So last couple of weeks, we started the implementation of the push notification server. This is using the work of another swarm which recently started, which is the Go-SDK, and it's progressing well. The client development, unfortunately, didn't start due to other swarms that are higher priority and were finishing and needed the help of our Clojure resource. But hopefully, during the next couple of weeks, we'll have that started. The push notification server itself is a 4-week effort. So eventually, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll catch up with those two efforts. The lesson learned is just that it was a great coincidence to have the Go-SDK start, because it's greatly simplified having this, we're both consumers and we're giving feedback to the Go-SDK swarm. And it also allowed us to remove that, offload a bit of that work to another swarm. And so, yeah, that's it.
Cool. Yeah, dog fooding for the win. That's really, really great. So 96 tribute to talk. One of my favorite ones is Richard on the call.
Hey, hello everyone. So in the last 2 weeks, there was lots of healthy discussion in our channel, which resulted into the design for both the chat requester and recipient screens. Creating, besides that, the prototypes that show the flows for both of these roles. Also, the contract was simplified quite a lot, with a big chunk of the logic being handled now via message signatures. This translates into a contract which is cheaper to use while still fulfilling the requirements for this idea. In addition to all that, we also got 2 new participants in this swarm, Eric and Sergey. And the goals for the next 2 weeks are to work on the implementation of this idea, along with creating bounties so the community may participate into building this idea. And that's it for now. Thank you.
Yeah, it's amazing work. I strongly recommend anybody watching this call to go and take a look at our contracts repo on GitHub. You can explore the various different branches there. There's been some really, really amazing work by Richard and Ricardo. And the new signature scheme and this tribute to talk stuff is just unbelievable. So really, really nice work there, guys. Wallet and account swarms, so 151 ENS usernames. Ricardo, are you on the call?
Yes, I'm here. So the progress in the 2 last weeks, now we have the resolver initializing automatically in the name creation. So we can set a first account to the ENS resolve 2 and a first public key that is 2 bytes 32 size. So there is some new deploy scripts on using Embark. The test scripts are still not good enough, but they should be simple to finish. The release of the names are now implemented. We have this fixed time of 1 year to release. And also this release was implemented in a way to protect the user terms in the contract. So wherever you deposit that locked SNT in the contract, then you know that no one can take that from you unless you allow it. Also, we have this ENS domain purchased, that is the state of us.it. About the upgradability that is not included in this, but is also something that is now done. Now the upgradability, it allows the move of the domains and the move of the subdomains. So if we have a new contract that implements new features that ENS requires, then the domain can be moved, and whoever wants to move together can move. The subdomains can also move to this new domain. But this move is not needed because the user also owns the subdomain. The future goals for this swarm would be, we need some more UX flows on it, and we need Clojure developers to start implementing this on the wallet section. So for now, is this.
Cool. Thank you so much, Ricardo. Yeah, I was speaking at length with Alex van der Sande here at EdCon, and he was just mentioning the fact that you two had a discussion and 2 days later you presented him with a fully implemented version of the contract, and then 2 days after that another contract that had been optimized for gas and stuff, and he was just, like me, blown away by the quality of the work that's going on in these swarms. So really kudos to both you and Richard, because it's really impressive stuff, and it's going to be great to see some SNT utility coming into Status. That's also one of our sort of core OKRs. So fantastic stuff. 170 is Goran on the call.
I can read it for Goran if he's not here. So the last 2 weeks, Goran has added, and the team has added an ERC20 token transfers and transfer history. This was a big blocker for beta for us because you couldn't actually see, for example, S&T transfers in your transaction history. And there's been several fixed bugs, including some very cool bounties that we weren't expecting that got picked up. Future goals, we're working on a proof of concept for sending tokens from chat. That's one of the features that have been missing, and adding mainnet as an option to the alpha releases. And lessons learned so far, we need to address some Ethereum user experience issues to some extent. So that means not only do we have to educate users about how to use Status, but we have to educate about Ethereum concepts and gas prices and other things that might not be completely intuitive for new users.
Yeah, thank you so much for that update, Chad. And it's one of the reasons why we're hiring a lot in design and in-app copy. So if that's your strength, please do follow the links that were given earlier in the slideshow. Yeah. So into DApps and Developers, 101 extensions. This is led by Julian.
Yeah, so extension is a new swarm. We started pretty recently, like maybe 2 weeks ago. And the main idea is to allow external developers, so third-party developers, to implement and extend new features directly on top of the Status platform, and eventually even using those concepts internally for new features. So even so, it's a pretty recent swarm. There's been a lot of work upfront just to understand what we want to do and how we plan to implement it. So I shared two links in the summary on the right-hand side, so you can take a look and eventually provide some feedback. So right now we are still on the MVP part of this swarm, and it has been split into 2 parts. And the first part, the one we are currently implementing, is focused on just validating the concept and making sure that we can actually implement them. And we are doing this first using web technologies just to simplify maximum what we can do for now. And the future goals for next 2 weeks will be just to finish this first part of the MVP. So eventually using IPFS, we will load like some basic extension and see it running in a web browser. And then the second part of the MVP will be to do exactly the same, but directly running inside Status. And after those 2 parts, I think we should be pretty confident that extension is actually something that we can use, and that all the concepts are actually feasible and make sense. So one thing that we learned during this process is I think it makes a lot of sense to try to think and detail swarm upfront and spend some time trying to just understand what we want to do and detail what we plan, even if it's out of the scope of this swarm, just because it gives more context and a clearer picture of what we actually want to do. Thank you.
Thanks, Julian. Yeah, I think it's worth just re-emphasizing that again, because we've got some amazing documentation that's been written before even any code. And just one of the cool things about getting to work at Status is that we do have the opportunity to think long-term and quite strategically about the things that we're doing, especially in terms of how to avoid local maxima. And Julian is an expert at that. And it's really inspirational to see just how much thought has gone into thinking about how we can extend status to third-party developers in, a sustainable, interesting, and modular way. So there's some really, really interesting stuff happening in the Swarm. I recommend that you follow the links given there and read about what's going on. So 146, this is led by Adria.
Hey, I'll actually speak to this one. So the status-go-sdk swarm is also a new swarm. It kicked off just after our last town hall. And the objective of this swarm is to create a library that will make it easy for Go developers to interact with the status messaging system to build their own chatbots. So the team has actually made some really great progress in the last 2 weeks. As of now, a Go developer should be able to set up the SDK, therefore interact with the status node, log in, create an account first for their bot, log in, and also join public channels and interact in public channels. The next couple of weeks, the goal is to add support for contacts, adding contacts, and also for one-to-one and group chats, private chats. As was mentioned in the push notifications update from Pedro, there's a really nice overlap between these two swarms. We've discovered that push notifications will be able to rely on the SDK to interact with the status messaging system. So additionally, we're going to be building in some specific support for push notifications into the SDK.
Amazing. Thanks, Rachel. 154, Andre. Are you around? Otherwise, maybe Igor or Dimitri or Rachel.
I'll speak to this one. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So, essentially what we did in these 2 weeks is that we are developing Web3 filters for RPC modes, because obviously, like in Cura, they shrank their APIs quite a lot since we started using them. So right now they don't allow creating filters on their side, which is, well, reasonable solution, but therefore we have to re-implement them on our own side. So that's what we are doing right now. Then, sync calls are being in progress, because right now we only support async calls with callbacks in Web3. And sync calls aren't supported, and some of the apps need them. We also had some troubles with the CryptoKitties. I remember that they were trying to figure out which kind of browser we were using, and then because the little bit history behind it, MetaMask, they for some reason used the normal API name but swapped the parameters. I don't know why they did that, but they did. And then right now there is some confusion in some DApps, because there is one method called personal sign, and in almost everywhere you get from as the first parameter, and then what you want to sign as a second. And then in MetaMask, they for some reason flip them. And since MetaMask is super popular, then a lot of DApps try to figure out, okay, do you run in MetaMask? We try to flip the parameters then. And then, we had some troubles with that as well. So for the future, we want to finish the Web3 filter support, sync call support, and we also want to add a whitelist of Web3 methods that is available for the DApps, because right now, for instance, the DApp can just disable all the messaging by setting wrong proof of work for the whole status app. So we need to sort of protect this area. And obviously we need some kind of a set of test cases for which kind of APIs do we want to work reliably to support this in the most of the DApps. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So into the research swarms, 67, the Nimbus team.
Hi there. Basically, our team is still busy building many of these building blocks that are required for an Ethereum implementation, like libraries for working with big integers. We released a pretty cool logging library for NIM, for demonization of processes, for handling Ethereum key files, and so on. And we'll be moving on to building all of this, combining all of these building blocks together to create finally a Nimbus, a complete Nimbus client that will work as a complete Ethereum implementation. This will be our goal for the next 2 weeks. Even initially, it should support running on all of the desktop operating systems like Linux, Windows, and Mac OS. Support for running on mobile operating system will come later. we are also sending, we'll be announcing our first bounty. So if there are any NIM developers in the audience, I invite you to take a look at the Open Bounty website in the next few days for various small tasks in enhancing some of these libraries that we have provided. And as for lessons learned so far, basically, I guess we never expected that the team will be spending so much time in improving the NIM language and the ecosystem and developing so much basic libraries. But we are proud that we take time to establish very high standards of quality in the project. And we do not like to take compromises, so that's why we invest so much time into this. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks so much. 95 LES. Is this Boris or Eugene?
Yeah. Good day, all. We've managed to deploy ULC compatible server, or like client compatible server on mainnet, and we've built two versions of real status applications with ultralight client and last client to compare it with Infura. The goal for next 2 weeks is to deploy 2 more servers and to test real ultralight client consensus and compare ultralight client with Infura version of our application. It's all.
Cool, thank you so much. And now into Q&A. Are there any questions that have been asked in the course of this? Can someone check for me? Oscar, do you know?
Yeah, if there's anything coming through on the YouTube channel or in Zoom or in
nothing in Zoom that I can see.
Cool, that's no problem. We can always answer YouTube channel questions there in text. As always, if you have further questions, you're more than welcome to join us in chat.status.im and ask us anything. We're generally quite a responsive bunch. And just, from me personally, send some love to Jacek, who's currently onion routing his way across Europe to get to Slovenia for that Swarm conference. It is worth just mentioning again how important and motivational actually meeting the people in person that are working on these protocols and tools can be. It's been a fantastic week in Canada, going through EdCon and EIP 0 before it, and a Web3 UX unconference after it. And it's really great to, meet people in person, but B, it's also fantastic to see how far ahead Status often is, particularly on our UX, some of our design, and just the way that this organization works and thinks. So thank you to everybody who's involved with that. Thanks to all the swarms. It really is inspirational to see this stuff just self-organize and produce the results that it has been producing. So have a fantastic week. And I'm sure that we'll see you all in Slack or in Riots. And feel free to ask any questions there that you have. Thanks and cheers.